History buffs, welcome back to Encycloman, the channel where we dig deep into history's greatest mysteries, controversies, and untold stories. I am so glad you are here today, because what we are about to uncover together is one of the most jaw-dropping stories ever printed in an American newspaper. Make sure you are comfortable. This one is going to make you question everything. What if one of the most significant archaeological discoveries in American history was made right inside one of the most visited natural wonders on the planet, and almost nobody was ever allowed to know about it? What if the records were quietly removed and the story was buried inside a single newspaper page that most people have never read? We are talking about the Grand Canyon. 4 million visitors every year, scientists studying it for over a century, and yet deep in its most remote corridors there are cave systems the public cannot access and many that have never been formally excavated. One extraordinary newspaper story from 1909 claims a government-sponsored expedition entered those walls and found something that had absolutely no business being there. Hieroglyphs carved into stone, a vast underground city, and a central idol in a chamber lit by sunlight only at certain times of year, exactly like the great temples of ancient Egypt. According to one very detailed 1909 newspaper account, all of this was found inside the Grand Canyon, and almost no one has talked about it since. Today on Encycloman we are going to dig into this legend together, the original newspaper story, what historians and archaeologists say, and the ancient context that makes this so hard to fully dismiss. And at the end we will introduce a historical figure whose story connects to all of this in a way that will make part 2 absolutely unmissable. If you love hidden history, hit subscribe right now so you never miss an episode. Let us set the scene carefully. It is spring 1909. Arizona is not yet a state. The American West is still genuinely wild and largely unmapped. Expeditions into the Grand Canyon are rare and dangerous. Into this world, a local newspaper called the Arizona Gazette publishes what should have become one of the most talked about stories in American history. On April 5, 1909, the Arizona Gazette published a front-page article headlined, "Explorations in Grand Canyon, Mysteries of Immense Rich Cavern Being Brought to Light." The piece named real organizations, real geographic locations, and described a discovery that should have shaken every scientific institution in the world. The Smithsonian Institution itself was specifically named as the expedition sponsor. The account was credited to a man named G.E. Kincaid, described as an experienced government scout and prospector. According to Kincaid, he was traveling alone down the Colorado River when he noticed something carved high into the canyon wall. Not erosion. Not a natural formation. A stairway, deliberately cut into solid stone, positioned nearly 1,000 feet above the river, in a section of canyon almost no one had ever visited. Kincaid climbed up and entered a narrow carved passage. He described a corridor stretching deep into the canyon wall, level floor, deliberate tool marks on the walls, unmistakable signs of human construction. He said the air inside was cool and dry, unusual for a desert canyon, and the silence was total. Whatever this place was, it had not been visited in a very long time. Here is the first major red flag. This story, describing what would be the greatest archaeological discovery in American history, appeared exactly once. April 5, 1909. No follow-up article the next day. No rival newspaper picked it up. No photographs were published. No map of the cave was printed. The story appeared fully formed, extraordinary in detail, and then went completely and permanently silent. Was this silence a cover-up, or the silence of a story that was never real? That is the question historians and researchers have been debating for over 100 years. And to begin answering it, we need to look at what Kincaid claimed to have found inside, because the details point in one very specific direction. So what exactly did Kincaid claim to find inside that passage? According to the Arizona Gazette, the main corridor stretched for over a mile, branching into dozens of rooms and alcoves carved directly from the solid rock. Kincaid noted immediately this was not a natural cave. The walls were too smooth, the angles too deliberate, the floor too level. This was a constructed space, built intentionally by people who knew exactly what they were doing. The walls, Kincaid said, were covered in hieroglyphs, not random pictographs but an organized, structured writing system arranged in deliberate rows, repeated consistently across multiple chambers. He described them as similar to, but not exactly the same as, Egyptian hieroglyphs he had seen in books. Similar the way two related writing systems from the same ancient tradition might resemble each other, not copied, but related. Among the physical objects Kincaid described, copper weapons including swords and spears, stone tablets covered in carvings, pottery of an unidentified style, and, most dramatically, mummies. Multiple mummified human bodies, carefully wrapped and placed in individual alcoves carved into the walls. Not scattered remains. Deliberately positioned, deliberately preserved, in a manner Kincaid directly compared to Egyptian burial practice. At the deepest point of the complex, Kincaid described a large central chamber with a grand idol at its center. Seated cross-legged, hands resting on its knees, a posture he compared simultaneously to Buddhist statuary and ancient Egyptian deity figures. The face had features he described as distinctly non-Native American. The materials, stone and metal alloy, were unlike anything he had encountered in the American West. The chamber had one feature Kincaid considered most significant of all. It was oriented so precisely that at certain times of year, a shaft of natural sunlight entered through a small ceiling opening and illuminated the idol directly. This is not accidental. It is exactly the same architectural principle found in confirmed ancient temples from Egypt to Ireland to Mexico, structures deliberately aligned with the movement of the sun. Now, I want to be completely honest before we go further. Everything we just described comes from a single newspaper account. No physical artifact has been independently verified. No photograph from inside has ever been published. The location has never been reopened for independent examination. We have a detailed, internally consistent story, and nothing else. That matters enormously when we start asking the hard questions. Let us zoom out and look at the bigger historical picture, because the story Kincaid told does not exist in a vacuum. Ancient Egypt lasted for over 3,000 years, longer than the entire span from the Roman Empire to today. At its height, it was the most technically advanced civilization on the planet, with engineering, astronomy, medicine, and maritime capability far ahead of anything else in the ancient world. We know from Egyptian records that they were exceptional maritime traders. Their ships crossed the Red Sea and the Mediterranean regularly. Their Phoenician allies are confirmed to have sailed as far as the British Isles. Some researchers have pointed to traces of coca and tobacco found in certain Egyptian mummies as possible evidence of even wider contact, though this finding remains fiercely disputed and is not accepted by mainstream science. The mainstream scientific consensus is firm: no verified Egyptian artifact has ever been confirmed in the pre-Columbian Americas. The genetic record of indigenous American populations does not support ancient Egyptian contact. Neither does the linguistic, agricultural, or botanical record. When scientists follow the evidence as it actually stands, the Egypt to America theory does not hold up. And yet, here is the cultural context that is critical for understanding why the 1909 story looked the way it did. In that era, America was gripped by what historians literally call Egyptomania. Ancient Egypt was a national obsession. Howard Carter's famous discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb was still 13 years in the future, but museums were already displaying mummies, and the word Egyptian reliably sold newspapers across the country. That cultural context cuts both ways. The story could be a deliberate fabrication by an editor who knew Egyptian content sold papers. Or it could mean a genuine strange discovery was described using Egyptian as the only reference point available, because Egyptian was the only ancient civilization most Americans in 1909 would have recognized. Both explanations are entirely possible. Neither can be ruled out at this stage. The hieroglyphs are the absolute center of this entire debate. If those carvings were genuinely Egyptian, not just similar but the actual writing system of the Nile Valley, the implications would require the complete rewriting of human history. In Part 2 we will compare exactly what was described in the Gazette article against the real Egyptian hieroglyphic record. That comparison is going to be very revealing. When researchers began seriously investigating the 1909 story, the first stop was obviously the Smithsonian Institution, because the Arizona Gazette had specifically named them as the expedition sponsor. If this expedition happened, the Smithsonian would have a record. They are one of the most meticulously record-keeping institutions in the world, with archives going back to 1846 and over 155 million catalogued objects. The Smithsonian's official response is unambiguous. Their position: no such expedition ever took place. Professor S.A. Jordan, named as the lead scientist, does not appear in any Smithsonian staff list, expedition record, or correspondence archive. No Grand Canyon artifacts matching the description are catalogued in their collection. Their representatives have stated, repeatedly and consistently across many decades, that the story is almost certainly a fabrication. Skeptics point to several specific problems with the original account. G.E. Kincaid cannot be traced in any independent historical record, no scout registry, no prospector's license, no other newspaper mention outside this single Gazette article. And the geographic location described corresponds to an area that geologists say is structurally inconsistent with large man-made underground chambers. Those who believe something real happened push back hard. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, especially when the institution doing the denying is the same one accused of the cover-up. They also point to the Smithsonian's real and documented history of acquiring Native American skeletal remains and artifacts under ethically controversial circumstances in the 19th and early 20th centuries. The honest position is genuinely difficult. The Smithsonian's denial is credible and consistent across decades. But the original story is strangely specific for a pure newspaper fabrication. Most hoaxes of the era were vague and colorful. This one named precise measurements, exact geographic coordinates, and specific institutional affiliations. That level of specificity is either the mark of genuine experience, or a very sophisticated deliberate deception. We leave the Smithsonian question open for now. But before we move on, plant this in your mind: in 1908, 1 year before this story appeared, the Grand Canyon was declared a protected federal reserve by President Theodore Roosevelt, restricting public access to large sections of the canyon. The timing of that restriction and this story appearing in the very next year is either coincidence, or it is not. Let us step back from the 1909 story and look at the broader archaeological picture, because context is everything here. The Grand Canyon is not an empty rock. It is one of the most archaeologically significant landscapes in all of North America. Ancient peoples lived in, around, and inside this canyon for thousands of years, and the artifacts they left behind are real, confirmed, and extraordinary. Most professional archaeologists who review the 1909 account conclude it was almost certainly a yellow journalism hoax, a product of an era when sensationalist newspaper stories about lost cities and hidden civilizations were enormously popular. The complete absence of any physical corroborating evidence, combined with the untraceable identities of both named figures, leads most historians directly to that conclusion. A smaller but serious group of researchers take a more nuanced position. They do not believe the Egyptian connection, but they question whether something unusual might have been wildly exaggerated rather than purely invented. The Grand Canyon has hundreds of documented caves that have never been formally examined. Some are genuinely inaccessible. Surprising discoveries continue to be made in this region even today. And now we arrive at the thread that will anchor part 2. The legend of Caesar. Caesar was the son of Julius Caesar and Cleopatra, the last person to hold the ancient title of Pharaoh of Egypt. When Augustus Caesar conquered Egypt in 30 BC, Caesar was officially executed at just 17 years old. But historians have always noted something unusual: his body was never publicly displayed, which was extremely rare for high-profile Roman political killings. Some alternative historians have proposed, and this is speculative, that Caesar may not have died in 30 BC. That he may have escaped onto a ship with loyal followers and sailed as far from Rome as physically possible. If that happened, the question is no longer could ancient Egyptians have reached America. It becomes, could this specific group of royal exiles, with everything to lose, have done it? That is a very different question with very different implications. The honest truth is that no physical evidence has been found that definitively confirms or completely destroys the 1909 account. The Smithsonian denial is significant but not absolute. The story's internal consistency is intriguing but not proof. The canyon still has unexplored passages. That ambiguity is real, and it is exactly what has kept this story alive for over 100 years. So let us take stock of where we are. One detailed 1909 newspaper account describing an Egyptian-style underground complex inside the Grand Canyon, named as Smithsonian-sponsored, discovered by an untraceable scout. The Smithsonian flatly denies it. Most historians call it a hoax. But the canyon genuinely has unexplored caves, real ancient artifacts have genuinely been found there, and the story's specificity is genuinely unusual for a pure fabrication. Here is what is coming in part 2. We are going deep on the Caesar theory, every piece of evidence for and against the idea that Egypt's last pharaoh survived 30 BC. We are looking at what modern independent explorers found when they went searching for the Kincaid Cave. And we are asking whether the restricted zones of the Grand Canyon are quite as innocent as the official record suggests. Before I let you go, drop a comment right now. What is your instinct? Newspaper hoax designed to sell papers? A genuine discovery buried by powerful institutions? Or is there a third option we have not even considered? I read every single comment, and the most interesting responses from Part 1 will get a direct shout-out at the start of Part 2. If this video made you think and wonder, we did our job. Please give it a like because it genuinely helps more history lovers find Encycloman. Share it with one friend who loves a great mystery. And subscribe if you have not already. Part 2 is dropping very soon and you do not want to miss it. That is everything for Part 1 of Shocking Egyptian Secrets in the Grand Canyon. I am your host, this is Encycloman. Stay curious, keep questioning, and never stop digging. Because history is never as settled as they told you in school. Thanks for watching. We will see you in Part 2.